Hello Commanders and welcome to this video for Infinite Lagrange. Today I want to talk about one of the most important parts of the game, the ship blueprints. And let's start with something simple with a frigate. So every one of you will start having the FG300. The first number here shows that we have 3 types of this. There will be also sometimes, I can show this here, that you will see that I have only one, but I can see the second one because I started already researching it, but I was not able to get the full blueprint. The A version, you will always get the full blueprint. You can see the A here, a little bit shaded in front of the type. You can see here, this is a C version. For the other versions, B, C, sometimes even D, you can get 100%, you can get 20%, that depends on your luck. Now let's take a look. What else do we have? We do have some tech points here. These are the tech points that do not disappear. Now let's take a look at my Xeno Stinger. I put 65 tech points total into this. I know I will get some comments here because that's more than you need, but that's a different topic. Now, 65 tech points assigned to this is coming when you do your research, your black market boxes. There's no blueprint inside. You will always be able to assign a tech point. These tech points, they stay over multiple seasons. The second number are the tech points you got from experience. Important to note, 29. That's the maximum you can get from fighting PvE, meaning farming pirates. Everything after that must either come from PvP, or you can click the symbol down here and you can assign additional combat microchips. There is also the option that you click on it and just don't release your finger, so you can assign more of them and you will get more and more tech points up to a maximum, as you can see here, of 50. Now I would recommend to do that early on in game. It really will help you with a lot of difficult stuff, but keep in mind you will need to have something to put these tech points in. As you can see here, I now didn't do it because my attack is already full, my weapon is already full, my armor system is under development. It will not change so much anymore for that ship. I will have other ships where I do that. Now that's the first important part about the blueprints we have to know. The difference between XP and tech points that are coming from the research. XP tech points will be reset at the end of the season. They are limited to 29 in PvE and to 50 overall. You can get there by PvP or by using these microchips. The next thing are the skills of the ships. We just talked about my Xeno Stinger. I said I already maxed the things that are important for me. The Xeno Stinger comes with a UAV system, so let's take a look at something more normal. The Ruby, for example. Great frigate. Now, if we take a look here, we do have 2 different weapon types. One is marked with an M. This is the main weapon system. That's important to note. If you have a fight versus something like the Rayliard Stealth type, the Rayliard Stealth type can do, and we already hear now in the details of the weapon system, can do attack against systems, and we can always click on this. And you can see here it can disable the primary weapon system of a ship. Now, if you have multiple weapon systems, like we just saw it on the Ruby here, then this weapon system will get disabled. This weapon system is providing 3200 anti-ship damage out of a total 3900, meaning if that happens to the Ruby is pretty useless. There are other ships where it will be different, but this is important to note. This is the main weapon system. Now when we take a look at the weapon system, you can do that also for the Rayliard because there I already have a little bit of things skills. We do have multiple things. First of all, for the new players, it's very important. You can click on the weapon system for additional information. You will see the damage per hit. This is a very important number. The Radiant Stealth does 200 damage per hit projectile. Projectile damage will be calculated versus armor, and the calculation there is pretty straightforward. It is damage minus armor, meaning if I do have 200, or in this case 260 damage, and the armor is 260, there's no damage left. Now this is capped at 10%, so you will always do a minimum of 10% damage. But overall, it is important to note, the higher the damage per hit, the better the ship will perform later. Now the other thing, we do have the priority in targets, and we can get this more detailed when we click on the eye here. It will show us what we try to shoot first. First carriers, then battle cruisers, then cruisers. It will also show us more information here. Cooldown, lock-on time. Most often you can reduce the cooldown, which will increase the damage a lot. Lock-on time, I think I didn't see a weapon system where I can change this. We can do this for our aircrafts. We can reduce the lock-on time. But I don't know. I didn't see it for a weapon system. Now another thing is critical damage. As we can see here, this weapon does not indicate to be able to do critical damage. Now there are skills that can increase the critical damage, but you have to make sure that you also get a chance to do critical damage. There's one ship that comes to mind there, which already reported many times. If you ever get into this and you will find yourself, using the fighter, the Vitas A021. That's why you need to know these kind of details. The weapon system is not able to do critical damage, and there is no skill that would enable us to do critical damage. There's a skill that increases the critical damage, but we can't land a critical hit. So important to understand these kind of basics for your ship. Now let's go back here. Now we did talk about the main weapon system, we did talk about the attack priority, about the damage per hit. Another very important thing is if you don't click on the name, but here on this target symbol on the side, you can increase the damage of your ship, especially for your new players. Don't miss that. It's up to a maximum of 30%. It will be kept at 30%. Let's take a look at a different ship. I always have to skill, let's say a fighter. If I go for my Vitas B010, great fighter, and go there to the weapon, I click on this target system. I now see, at the moment it is locked, the first step will give me 3% extra damage. I have to use 3 of these tech files, so you can just select them, and the higher level they are, the higher the success rate. Now you can also remove some and put them somewhere else. You don't want to go over 100%, that would be a waste. If you have a lot of level 5 R5 tech, deselect one and select a lower one, and then you just click confirm. Now if you're lucky, you will be successful. If you're not lucky, nothing will happen. If nothing happens, you are still successful. Let's try again. 6%. 9%. Oh, we are very successful at the moment. So now we were not successful, we're still at 9%, but the success rate went up. It's now 20%, plus 20%. So let's see. Not successful, now we are at 25%. So the more often you try, the higher the success rate will get, and at one point you will be able to succeed there. Good, so that covers the weapon, the damage type. We didn't mention this. There's also a damage type. We talked about the projectile. The damage is getting the armor deducted. For the other damage type, we have energy. Now, projectile or kinetic, everything counts there. Everything that is projectile, missiles, torpedoes, all of these will have to work against armor. Only energy weapons will not work against armor. Energy weapons will work against energy resistance. It's easy to see for the larger ships. Let's take the Spear of Uranus. The Spear of Uranus comes with an amazing 240 armor. So everything that does not do at least 200, 260 or no, more than 260 will only do 10% of its damage, which is basically nearly nothing. Now, for the Constantine, I do have some tech points, so I can take a look here. Constantine only has 160 armor, still a lot. And if we go into the armor system, we see here we do have the armor 160, and we do have an energy resistance of 25%. And that really reduces energy damage by 25%. Then in addition to that, you can always skill additional energy resistance. So we can increase it here. We do get another 10%. Now we are already at 35% energy resistance. We do it again. We are at 45% energy resistance. There are some ships that can go higher, some ships that have higher base resistance, other ships that cannot go very high, especially for the small ships. Very often you do not have any energy resistance available at all, so keep that in mind. And that brings us to skilling your ships. Now you can always reset them, there's no cost, you don't lose anything, you can do that as often as you want. Changing the skills will only be applied when your ship is in your base. So if you change your skills while your ship is somewhere flying around, it will keep the skills that were set when it left the base. Also very important to understand that. Now, let's take a look again at the FG300, because everyone got that one. Now, if you use the armored type, it does not do as much damage as the multi-role type, and this one is a front row ship, so very likely it will get a lot of damage compared to the other ships. Therefore, the recommendation is always to increase survivability, increasing HP, increasing resistance. And here we can see we have 0 skill to increase our energy resistance, and we have 0 energy resistance. That's a problem with the small ships. Many times they do not have any resistance against energy. If you use a ship that is more designed for damage, let's say in this case a multi-role, you will also check this is not in the front row, so the chances that it gets damaged are a little bit lower. Most often the damage starts in the front row, and you might want to start focusing on your weapon system. And most of the weapon systems will be able to increase the damage, increase the hit rate, and reduce the cooldown. These are the 3 things you have for nearly all of your weapon systems. My recommendation always will be to increase the hit rate. Now, here we have something special. We do have hit rates for different types. Most often it's for everything. So in this case, I would increase the frigates, destroyers, because that's what I want to use the ship for, to kill enemy ships. My priority always hit rate first. Then, depending on the weapon, either damage or cooldown. Why depending on the weapon? Now, if we take a look here, damage per hit is 25, meaning I would try to increase the damage per hit to counter armor, what I explained before. If I do have already very high hits, I might go with a cooldown, because you get a higher damage boost there. But that always depends how much armor your enemies have, and if you use energy-based weapons or kinetic kinds of weapons. Okay, so I think that gave us a good overview of weapon systems and armor. We do have the firepower stats here on the left. We can see all the different variables. So anti-ship is versus other ships. Anti-aircraft is versus aircraft. Unfortunately, we always have to check in the weapon system what is the anti-aircraft range. And most ships do only counter-attack. That means they need to get attacked to start shooting at enemy aircrafts, which makes the anti-aircraft skills of most ships pretty useless. And then the last one, it's the siege fire. This comes into play when you start killing cities or enemy bases. Only then it will use the siege damage of your ship. It is for me the least important stat of all, but we want to cover it also. In the basic stats, we do have the HP, the armor. HP is clear, this is what's going down. If it's at 0, your ship will be destroyed. Armor, also, we already explained this. The armor value will get deducted from the damage of all these kinetic and physical weapons. Cruising speed is the speed that we use when we do not warp, and that brings us to warp speed at last. We can also get additional information here. How expensive is it and how long does it take to build that ship? And another very important thing is the storage capacity, which can be very interesting when you want to increase your mining output. Made a separate video about that. For the roles, this is something you should not spend too much time looking at. The most important thing is to check what is the row where this ship is assigned to. Is it the front row, middle row, or back row? And then the active service, so you can have a maximum of 15 FG300. There are some ships you can have 10. In this case here, we also have the larger ships. Sometimes you can only have 8 battle cruisers. For carriers, sometimes only 5. So every ship, and the larger it gets, the bigger it gets, usually the smaller the number of the maximum ships will be that you can use. One more thing that is visible here is the amount of command points that you need to put it in your fleet. Early on in game, that is not really a big issue because you will be able to put a total of 300 ships in a fleet, skilled later 400. But later in game that will be a limiting factor, and you will have to look which ship you put inside your fleet and which you cannot. That also allows you to reinforce your fleet with 5 ships, which usually you choose the ones with the highest command point value. Okay, as we talk about this, don't forget to click on the utility ship blueprint, because we can also skill our utility ships. The longer they mine, the more tech points XP they will get. And we can use this to increase the mining speed as well as the storage capacity. You can also increase the travel speed, but I would only recommend to do that like in between. You can see here I do have a total of 7 tech points. This is not enough to increase my mining yet. I need 8. So in this case I can put these tech points into the propulsion that it flies a little bit faster. As soon as I get one more tech point, I will move it over and have them mine faster or be able to mine more. Unfortunately, we cannot use our combat microchips, because I never saw a single combat microchip that can be used on a utility ship. So that's a problem, and there's also no utility ship tech files that would increase this for the tech points over the season. So the first number will always be 0 here, and the second number then can go up. Now, I know that was a very long and complicated video, but I hope it was able to give you a good idea and start into understanding blueprints, understand the different information we get from the blueprint. If you have specific questions, let me know in the comments. As always, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you on the next video again.